Welcome to issue 34. I'm here with Angelo.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Pretty good. Nervous, but I'm good.
Nervous? You said this is your first issue?
Yes, it is.
How has it been so far for you?
It's been really good, really nice. A lot of really great people to meet, a lot of very interesting, I guess you'd say stalls or whatever around. It's really nice. It's a
Was there
neat
anything
experience
that you were most expecting coming to issue
that I was most expecting.
or looking forward to?
Definitely being surrounded by other people who are like working in the forensic field. I know this is mainly around DNA, and that's kind of also where a lot of my interest is in. But it's just very nice being around a lot of, I guess you could say, not like-minded, but people who are in the same career or want to be in the same career. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is being around other people with a background in forensics.
So tell us where you are from and your position there.
So, I am currently a master's student from the University of Amsterdam. But I am working with the UNTHSC, University of North Texas Health Science Center. I'm working there on an internship to basically complete my thesis for my degree. I've been with them for the past five and a half months or so. About to finish actually in about 2 weeks.
Nice. And you're here in Ishi presenting a poster, correct?
Yes, I am.
So tell us a little bit about that poster.
So basically, I'm presenting on working with rapid DNA, the RapidHIT ID from Thermo Fisher. The study that I did is basically twofold. So we're looking to see if there's any variance between instruments. It'd be pretty important to know if you get I guess you could say, a higher reading on one instrument versus another one. Naturally, there's always going to be some variance between instruments. That's normal. You're not going to get perfect all the time. But we wanted to see if there's any significant variance, and in particular, because the RapidHIT ID works with a primary cartridge, which is an interchangeable device that you have to use for for multiple runs. We wanted to see if maybe those might have an effect on any variance, if there is any variance, notable variance. But the second part of the study, which is very interesting for a lot of people, is we're trying to see how they operate in an outdoor, uncontrolled environment. Because there's a lot of, interest in using these basically mobile DNA devices at, temporary outdoor labs. For example, there's interest in using them at the border, other things like that for, quick identification, because you can get a usable profile within 9 minutes, basically. So very, very quickly. So we wanted to see how they operate outdoors in an uncontrolled environment, because we know that there's a very big interest in using them in like mobile labs. I know in France, for example, I think it's France, they have a mobile lab set up, like a literal large, it looks like a bus, but basically it was converted, but it's meant to be able to move these instruments, but it's in an AC controlled environment. Not everyone has the resources to do that. So we wanted to see how practical it would be to use them outdoors, basically.
Okay, multiple questions. So what sample types is rapid DNA used for, specifically in these mobile labs?
So pretty much the only thing that it's acceptably used for is like reference samples. It can be used in, I think there's been a couple papers that have been written where they use them in crimes or for crime samples, but it's mainly when they know they have enough genetic material that they don't mind using some of it to run for that. Again, it's still relatively new, so it's not like it's widely accepted for use in a court, as an actual, like again, for non-reference samples. For reference samples or for preliminary stuff, they'll use it. If you're talking about what types, saliva and blood, and I think there's been some work with bone. But saliva and blood seem to be the main ones. I know what we're doing is saliva. So we're doing buccal swabs.
Nice. And so what settings would a mobile lab be used for? Are these just for your kind of everyday crime scenes or for like mass crime scenes?
So the interesting thing about Rapid and why there's such a big interest in the forensic community with them is because the use is, extremely extensive. I know, for example, they used it in Florida. I think it was when the FIU bridge collapsed. Not bridge, but there was a thing that collapsed. I don't remember if it was that. There was some event that happened in Florida. I just don't remember at the moment. But basically, a big use for it would be DVI, or disaster victim identification. Obviously, when you have a lot of samples that need to be taken very quickly, labs, especially in places like Florida, like Miami or whatnot, are very backed up to begin with. and suddenly you have a massive surge of stuff coming in. So for DVI, that's a very strong point that a lot of people want to use it for. It's also just useful for, again, if you're simply collecting reference samples, potentially trying to identify someone that's coming in and not giving their identity, or claims an identity, you want to confirm it's that identity. For example, like police stations, like booking stations, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also, in the future, we might want to use them in actual labs, like for normal crime settings, because again, it could help lower the backlog that we have in most labs. Again, you can get a profile in 90 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you can do so many profiles in a single day, versus how much longer it can take with the with our standard DNA procedures that I use right now.
Okay. So I guess spoiler alert. Can you tell us about some conclusions that you came to from your research?
Yeah. So, like I said, we were trying to see if there's any variance between the instruments themselves, and possibly the primary cartridges. The instruments themselves seem to have very little variance on their own. So what we did is we basically shared a primary cartridge. So we ran samples on one instrument and took out the primary cartridge, and ran complementary samples, very similar samples from, taken at the same day, stuff like that. On another one, on another instrument using the same primary cartridge, and we got very little variance. Still some, not a lot.
Right.
Now, when we had different primary cartridges, we noticed a significant level of variance.
Okay.
So it seems that the primary cartridges themselves probably have a notable role in causing variance between instruments. So, again, it's less the instrument, more the primary cartridge.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because of timing and a couple of issues we had with some of the instruments, we didn't get enough data yet to actually report on stuff for the outdoor runs. But we did get some useful information still with the limited runs.
Right.
We were able to get accurate profiles, even when we had. So one interesting thing about the instruments is the user manual basically mentions that you're not supposed to run them when there's a variance of 2 degrees Celsius during a run. We had runs that varied by 5 and 4 degrees Celsius, and we still got usable profiles. We had a couple of error codes. Again, we need to analyze them to see if it's usable. But again, since we know what the profile is supposed to be, we know that the profile we got is accurate.
Right.
So it's promising. You can still get results. It might be flagged as having some sort of error, but we got some results. Another very useful thing is, again, the user manual mentions that the operational range is, I believe it was 15 to 30 degrees Celsius, 30 degrees being the upper limit. The instruments were still running at around 34. Once we hit 35, though, they refused to run. You cannot run another sample. We don't know if it will give a hard stop in the middle of a run, like if it reaches 35, it will stop.
Right.
But we know if it hits 35, you cannot run any more samples. So there is a hard cutoff point.
Okay.
So it seems that it's very unlikely in very warm environments to be able to use them outdoors without some sort of environmental control. So again, very preliminary data. It's not like I can give a lot of more information on that because I don't have the data to support it, but it's some useful information that we've gotten from the limited stuff we've done.
Definitely. And you said you have 2 more weeks left in your internship.
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh. Exciting. How has it been as an experience overall?
Great. It's my first time being in Texas for a good while. I've flown through Texas a couple times, but first time being there. The people in the lab are amazing. I love working with them. The director of the entire thing, Dr. Coble, has been amazing. So the experience from a work perspective has been great. The experience has been great. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's also just great because I'm not a big fan of school. But this has reminded me why I love forensics and why I've pursued my degree. It reminds me that, you have to get through the school part, which, again, not a fan of, but everything else, like the actual experience, even if what I'm doing is more research versus actual crime stuff, is still exciting and stuff I love. So,
like, the school part was worth it for where you're about to go.
Yeah.
In your future.
And again, not to say I did enjoy school.
Right.
It's in forensics. It's stuff I loved, but it just, academia in general, I'm not a fan.
Yeah. So what's next? Where would you like to go post-graduation?
So, I mentioned I was studying in Amsterdam and I'm working here, but I'm from a country called Belize.
Okay.
We do not have a DNA lab there yet. We're currently working on setting up one, but it'll probably take another year or two to properly get up and running. So I'd like to be there to help with that. So basically the end goal is to be back home in Belize and help, not like obviously not single-handedly, but to help be there and help run and set up a lab, or at least participate in it.
Right.
Obviously, main connections like a UNT and something's great. Potentially opening up future collaboratory research between Belize and other places, possibly UNT, possibly elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal basically go home, help us set that up in Belize. So that's the future goal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me about your research and just about your life.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been
Enjoy the rest of Ishi.
Thank you. You too.